Hello and welcome back to Elden Ring Rage Gaming and a new build video with myself, Hollow. Today I am really happy to talk about a build that we've made this amazing combination actually work. Yes, when we're using the katana and a dagger in power stance and actually getting the katana power stance moveset. As I'm sure you guys know, the wakizashi is a katana that allows power stance moveset when used in the left or offhand. It reflects the real world use of daggers and katanas in combination. So mechanically, despite the fact that this is indeed just a little dagger, certainly not a katana, it gets a katana moveset in power stance. The problem with that is it's a dagger, it's not another katana, so why not just use another katana? Well, there are actually benefits to using a dagger over a katana, such as your attacks being much faster. So in a bleed build, that works really well. Check out how fast I can burst people in PvP using just the dagger and its Ash of War. It's shockingly effective to the point where you could just use the dagger. But then the power stance moveset and the nice AR and bleed build-up potential we have is also great, letting us mix up our attack speed and really mess with people. In combination with that, we're using the Bloody Slash Ash of War and the Blood Blade Ash of War, both of which are majorly buffed in this patch, and both are fantastic now. Bloody Slash has had its status build up and attack power increased, and its recovery is now better, while Blood Blade has also had its attack power improved, but they've given damage detection to the weapon bar, meaning at melee range, you're hitting with the dagger and the ash at the same time, leading to ridiculous bleed potential. As you can see, just using that, I'm able to one cycle a Godric in New Game Plus. A great showcase of great DPS. So this build using our katana and dagger as if they're both katanas actually works. It's a really cool way to make this unique concept work. Let's talk about it, starting with PvP. Let's begin with the ashes because they're both awesome. Starting with Bloody Slash. As I mentioned, the Bloody Slash has better status build-up and attack power. You're able to get half of a status in a single use. So say a couple hits of the weapon and then Bloody Slash, you will see a bleed proc, but then the Bloody Slash itself is going to do massive damage, upwards of 1000. With its better poise damage, it's going to stagger opponents, and you've got better recovery so you can get out of it or go into another attack even faster now. Throwing it out blindly isn't always a good idea, but due to its nice range on that slash itself, you can actually catch people. They seem to not expect its range to catch them at mid-range, or if they're running away after a trade, it works well. However, I think this is fantastic in combination in PvP, off of a running attack, a crouch attack, a basic combo, and then a Bloody Slash. These things seem to work really well. So as a tool to damage, it's strong on its own, but incredible in combination. Now opposite to that is Blood Blade. We have that on our dagger, right? In this patch, it's actually got damage detection to the weapon par, meaning when you use this to trade in PvP, it actually works really well because you get the dagger hit and the ash hit at the same time. And then because you've got the really high arcane and the bleed procs, and then because you've got the really high arcane, your bleed stats build up is going to be huge on just this alone. Each individual hit can do 300 at range or up to 500 if you hit with the melee at the same time. Then you've got the bleed potential, which is going to spike it up over the thousands. And the beautiful part of this is you can absolutely spam this Ash of War, since it's only doing a small amount of damage to your health and costs so little FP, literally 3 FP, that's nothing. You can spam it as this massive threat and entirely rely on it. It works great for punishing spam rolls. It works great for blindly trading because the melee hit will do that massive bleed build. And while it is short range, short to medium sort of shotgun style, and it can't be used overly far, people often back up for a second to then cast something, throw something, or use some kind of ranged option or whatever, maybe take a mana pot, and it comes out fast enough and with enough range that it will catch them. So you can really just rely on this Ash of War, but the mix of Bloody Slash and Blood Blade makes for a really fun playstyle. But then of course we've got our weapons. The power stance combo of the fact we're using this katana and dagger is very strong. It has that awesome 2-part running attack, which is slow, multi-hit, great for trading or more specifically roll catching. But because of the range of the Nagakiba, you have great range on your basics. The crouch or roll attacks are these double slash attacks that come out at great range. But I think the main strength is the nature of the power stance attacks of Katana power stance. They come out slower, right? Which works well with your ashes, both types, or the dagger specific attacks. So you completely screw the trade timings as the enemy acclimatizes rises to the speed of your attacks, you suddenly change that up. You can also just use light attacks to just use the Nagakiba, then swap to power stance to slow it down, then swap to the dagger to speed it up. It's really fun. And either way, the weapons are going to hit hard thanks to that occult scaling, and the really high bleed potential is a huge threat. But to my surprise, one of the strongest things I could do in this build in PvP is simply swap to the dagger by two-handing it and then relying on the mega fast dagger attacks and Bloodblade, the Ash of War, as a mix-up. When they start to get low health, like 30% or lower, just doing this is so insanely dangerous because your attacks come out so quick, you're building up so much bleed build so quickly. I would say the majority of my duels came down to, okay, he's low enough, or I need to burst him. Time to just two-hand my dagger. It's crazy, but super effective and very fun. I'm really happy with how this build performs in PvP overall and all the options you have. On the other hand, we of course have PvE, where, yeah, it's just crazy strong in any scenario where the boss or enemy can bleed, which as always is most of the enemies in the game. Bloody Slash alone hits like a truck. With the buff, now it does so much damage. And it's got that great range. So bosses and enemies, they don't really try to avoid attacks. At best, they'll move around and reposition, which is still in range of the Bloody Slash. Your basic attacks are going to be really strong as well, because the occult scaling, you've got nice AR damage. But the bleed proc potential is just stupid, especially with the power stance. You're hitting with a Katana, which has got good bleed build-up, but then the dagger has even more, and you're hitting with both of them. Bloodblade is just stupid here. Now, again, the smaller range issue in PvP has no bearing here in PvE, so you can blindly spam this Bloodblade and bleed through those health bars nigh on instantly. As long as you don't get interrupted and you're able to trade, the insane potential of just Bloodblade will carry hard. Even if somehow your weapon sucked, even if Bloody Slash wasn't also great, it wouldn't matter. This Ash is very strong. It's really due to the attack spam and doing it in combination where this is so strong. Thanks to successive hits occurring, your AR is just going to go higher and higher. And it's very easy in PvE to just slap yourself against the boss and spam this because it's not really going to move around all that much. I found though the build worked generally best when I was using it all at once, trying to use some basic attacks and then comboing it with Bloody Slash and then leading into Bloody Blade spam as soon as I'm at range, or there's a longer punish window at melee range where I can get off say 4 casts or more back to back. As you can see, any build that has enough power to one cycle Godric in New Game Plus is a very high DPS build right there. So it's very effective, and it's very fun in PvE as well. Alright, so now it's time for us to actually explain the build. Let's begin with the weapons as always. We are using the Nagakiba, that long katana we've been mentioning, but it's in occult. The reason we're in occult rather than blood is because of that arcane scaling. You can see that it brings up my arcane scaling to a B, and I still benefit a bit from Dex at D. But there's this joint effect. The fact that I have high arcane in this build to get the benefit of that B scaling arcane means the blood loss buildup goes up to just under 100 while also improving my AR. So through testing that we've done, Bloody Slash actually deals more damage and amazingly more bleed build-up in occult than it would if you were in bleed or blood affinity. So it's very interesting, very effective, and that's why we do that. But on the other hand, for the Wacky Sashi, we actually run it in bleed or blood, getting a much higher blood loss buildup. You can see we're at 115 compared to 85. That results in lower AR on this weapon due to the lower scaling, but come on, we don't care about that. It's a dagger. It doesn't need high AR. What it needs is the ability to get the max status off of the many quick attacks, which you've seen in the PvP footage is absolutely insane. I'm also holding a dagger. This is because it's a lightweight option, and on this weapon we're easily able to pull an Ash of War like the Golden Vow to give us a nice damage buff. The reason we're using this weaker weapon Ash of War compared to the incantation is because that requires 25 faith, and we can't quite fit that in the build while maximizing our damage in other ways. The seal we're using to buff up is of course the Dragon Communal seal because it's arcane scaling, but we're only using Flame Grant Me Strength anyway, so it wouldn't really matter what seal you use. But the benefit of this one is the fact that it weighs nothing. Next, we have our armor. The White Mask, of course, is vital for any bleed build. It's going to give us extra attack power when a bleed proc occurs. The rest of the armor is purely cosmetic, but I recommend ones that have high poise. Then we have our talismans. I am running the Shard of Alexander for obvious reasons to improve our various ash damage. We're running the Lord of Blood's Exultation because that's going to increase our attack power after a bleed. We're running the Millicent's Prosthesis because we're going to get 5 dex by wearing it, and on our successive attacks we can get more AR, which works great in all content because we're attacking quite a lot, quite commonly. Then in PvP versus PvE, it's up to you. In PvE, I recommend the Rotten Winged Sword Insignia because again, successive attacks are great in that scenario, but you could choose to go for more health, stamina, equip load, and get more poise from that with Erdtree's Favor +2, or other options that you feel are better. On that note though, the Flask of Wondrous Physic. I have the Thorny Crack tier to boost successive attack power in line with what we just said, but then also the Crimson Burst Crystal tier. In PvE, this is really nice. It's health over time, which counteracts the kind of self-damage you're doing by using these Ashes of War. Of course, I would not use that in PvP because it's kind of scummy to use healing in duels, although I do see people using the Crimson Bubble tier, and I've ended up starting to use it too. Basically, if I see someone use a Wondrous Physic and then they have this active, the Crimson Bubble tier, I'll pop mine that also has one to once again level the playing field. But in general, you shouldn't be healing in duels. Lastly, here's a quick overview of my stats. We have the all-important 60 Vigor for PvP, 15 Mind because the FP cost is actually very low. You could even go with lower Mind, 15 Endurance for our armor and such. We're min-maxing on the Strength and Dex. 18 Strength is required to use the Nagakiba, as well as 22 Dexterity. But I actually don't have 22, I have 17. That's because Millicent's Prosthesis gives us 5, so that's how I get that breakpoint. We have our 15 Faith to use Flame Grant Me Strength, and the 80 Arcane to hit the real cap of what we're able to do with our occult weapon. But there you have it. That is our Bloody Blades build, actually making the Wakizashi work in unison with a katana in a very legitimate and very fun way. I've had an absolute blast using this in PvP and messing with my timings. Swapping to the dagger is strangely effective, as I've talked about, but I'm most happy with the fact that it keeps with the theme of these weapons and this bleed playstyle. Lots of options, all very strong, very effective. As always, guys, if you enjoy the build videos and want to keep seeing them, then let me know with a like so I can keep doing them. And if you've got a suggestion on a build to try and maybe do a video on, let me know in the comments as well. For now, though, I've been Hollow, you've been you. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.